we reached the final part. And Octavian put together a few slides, what we did so far for version 19. But this last session is where we want to hear also from you. And we spent an entire day talking to you. You should also talk to us a bit, right? So you've seen already some of the things that we are preparing for version 19, or together with oXygen 19. So the oXygen Collaboration Platform, which basically, I don't know, was someone that was not here for that session? Did you see the collaboration platform, everyone? Yeah. Well, so basically that just allows you to obtain a link very easily from within oXygen that you can share with others. Working from any device allows the people that receive that link to be able to access the document from a mobile phone maybe, or desktop, or wherever. Because the changes go back to the original document through you, through the author that created the review task, basically we have kind of full control of what's going into that repository. I mean, in many cases, you may not want any user to have direct access to your CMS, right? Or you may not have accounts for them in the CMS, or you may, for security reasons, maybe you don't want them to have accounts on your CMS system. So this kind of breaks, so you have like a workflow within a CMS within your company, and this creates another loop, another interaction loop with maybe with the outside world, or with a colleague, for an informal exchange of, you may require some help with some parts. Sometimes I think this is useful because you may not want to commit something on the repository, which is wrong. You may want to make sure that you put something valid there all the time. So, what do you think about this collaboration platform? How? Michael, from a CMS perspective, for instance, do you see users from outside or getting directly interacting with the content directly from the CMS, or this kind of sandbox in a way where they can work on the content and the content goes through you on the system? You find it's, I don't know, what do you think?
One thing is that our customers usually work in kind of encapsulated environments. So,
yeah, this can be installed on premise, so it can be within their environment as well.
Managing the review process is a challenge, and the de facto standard is sending around a PDF file. So, and this works fine. Nobody needs any access. They can take it with them on the train or on the plane without having any online access. To beat this, even though it's extra work for the people kind of collecting all the review comments and whatever is happening and the contradictory statements from several persons, that could be handled easier if it were on a central platform. It's still the added value must be quite significant to break the existing process. And so anything that helps this, we will of course have a look at it, because our own solution requires the reviewers to have an account on our CMS, which is bad because they don't know in advance who the reviewers will be, and setting up an additional account and whatever is a burden. And sometimes people just pass on the PDF like to the intern, please do a copy editor check or whatever. So, and that would be possibly easier with an easy to access platform. But again, this requires you to have an online access. So that is, so there are several things to kind of consider. And so we are kind of, we'll have to look for the next big thing to beat this old PDF-based workflow that is in place for 15 plus years now.
One thing I quite liked about the collaboration platform is you can put the link into the PDF to edit. So you've got the PDF for an offline viewing, but you've still got the ability to contribute to edit.
Yeah, so Christy presented an example where you have added these topic links in the PDF output. So you can have the PDF, but so you can annotate that if you want, print it eventually, but you also have the link. If you have online access, you can just click on that and be able to access that topic.
But there's a whole bunch of applications in the world that rely on online access to get the document, but then you can do anything with the document for a long time without having online access. And as soon as you have access again, everything is uploaded again. It must be possible with oXygen to do that kind of thing so that you can work offline, but still have reference to one copy that's on the server. I mean, it's a caching mechanism, right?
Simple web forward
I mean, it should be possible. Instead of having to refer to crappy PDF review or offline and then doing everything else in luxury online.
Yeah, I think from a technical point of view, and Christy can confirm that, allowing changes to text, for instance, should be doable. Not sure if, changing structure usually implies changing the styles maybe, you add a new element, how that is rendered. We do not push all that information on the browser.
I can work on any document in oXygen without having any access to the web. And as soon as I get access, it's just a matter of synchronizing with the copy on the
Yeah, so the web author has two parts, the server side and the client side, right?
Yeah.
And relies on the server side for some things. Yeah. So, like what are the styles to render something, right? That's the engine, the CSS engine is on the server side. Because you may inject different static content, as Patrick showed earlier. You can do all sorts of things. We have XPath extensions, so you can count the number of words and put that in the document.
Actually, your work
so maybe it's
would be
limited,
possible just by using the oXygen XML editor desktop application.
Yeah, for example. Yeah.
But the problem that will arise is that you then have to have your contributors merge their changes in case of conflict, and you run in all those issues.
And that's something that you already have with your...
With a web-based version, we use locking, so, while you are editing the... So you usually edit a document for a short time, so you are locking it for that short time, and then you move on. So
usually, yeah. So that's exactly where the problem is that needs to be solved, and then you have a perfect solution. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's easy.
All you have to solve is the hard bit.
Yeah. We have to live forever after with crappy PDF offline review.
Another thing that I found is interesting, it may be like a more non-formal way of collaborating. You just want to send a document to somebody else, but they may not have oXygen. Sending a link to someone is probably a lot easier than sending the document and relying on the fact that they will open that, and maybe, or if you send like 3 documents in the context, like with the DITA, you send 3 topics in the context of the map. So if you send them an archive with everything, you need to tell them open this, that, and that, and it gets more complex.
I consider being some privacy concerns, so maybe it would be possible to have a license agreement when they log in to review.
On the looking page, we have a link to terms and conditions, which we didn't create yet.
But this can be installed also on premise, and you can change the terms of conditions for that service to match your requirements. Or
have you announced the timeline for that?
It's going to be available in beta.
so as soon as it's ready. So right now we installed it on a test server on.
We have it on Amazon, but it's not the version that we are planning to. It's not the impression that we want to leave to.
So we expect to have this together with oXygen 19, which is expected in April, I think. Yes?
Yeah, that's great. I just want to add my vote again for something minimal, because actually maybe other use cases are different, but from my point of view, if I only have one author at a time making changes and then you see the previous authors, that's fine with me. And if you don't have any changes to the structure, actually, that makes my life as an editor easier, because I just see what people care about with the content and I will deal with the structure. That actually suits me. So a minimum viable product from my point of view is an awesome place.
Yeah, this is what was also one of the goals. I mean, we had so many ideas around different functionality that can be added, and we had to cut a lot of them and say, no, this doesn't go in version 1. This doesn't go into version 1, maybe later. And also we tried to minimize the number of steps from oXygen until you have the link. So just drag and drop, basically enter the title, press enter, and you have the task. And then you obtain the link to that and share it. Now we'll think, in the next versions, maybe you can have notifications automatically assign that to a group, but we didn't want to add too many things. Yeah, trying to make it as simple as possible, but still, close a circle, a use case, basically. And I used it for, as I said, my XML Prague proceedings, the proceedings from my XML Prague session. I wanted to be checked by our technical writer, which is a guy from US, so it's, he made a lot of corrections to the language. So I just created a task. I sent with the dogbook document. I sent him a link, and then 1 hour later I was able to get the changes and go through with the. So I forced change tracking. By default, change tracking is on. So I went through all those changes, accepting most of them. Yes. Another thing that I will show in the last day of XML Prague, actually, is that we did some work on, so you'll get to see that not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. So we've been doing some work on getting PDF with CSS going through XSLFO. Right, because XSLFO is actually great, but it's too complex, and customization is almost impossible for like 99.99% of the people that try to do that. Yeah, so that's you will see probably more about that the day after tomorrow. This will be available in oXygen. Also in 19, we will include. It will not be production ready probably in version 19, but we expect to work in a good number of cases. And the plan is to be part of oXygen, and think also, how we make it available also outside of oXygen if there will be interest in that. But we wanted to have something within oXygen. There are already, of course, like CSS to engines that use CSS to get PDF, I'm not sure if they use XSLFO at some stage or not. But for us to include such an engine was not really possible in oXygen because all of them are commercial. So and from a licensing point of view, it was a very huge initial cost. So, and we had the CSS engine from oXygen also, or used for the author view, which contains a number of quite advanced functionality. If you think of the expat function that we have, for instance, so you can do a lot of things, compute the number of words, for instance, any access values from other parts of the document. And also the column has, so you can style differently a section that has a title, for instance, or other checks that you can perform. I mentioned also earlier when we presented support for Saxon.js that we already managed to update oXygen to include the latest version of Saxon 9.7. That was a long process because oXygen is very tightly coupled with Saxon on the debugging part. There's no public API, let's say, for debugging. So then you use the engine directly, internal parts of the engine sometimes to extract different information, and those may change. And there are so many changes actually, not only on that part in Saxon 9.7. I think there will not be so many changes further because those changes were to implement the latest XSLT specification, and that's kind of done, and we do not expect additional changes. But it took us, we tried to do it once, and we were not in time. We reported a number of problems to Saxonica. They eventually fixed them later on, but there was no. We didn't manage to do it for oXygen 18.0. We didn't manage to do it in 18.1. So, but immediately after 18.1, we started the work to integrate the latest Saxon. Yeah. So. Yeah, so the solution was to create this plugin, which brings a new. The Saxon 9.7 has an XSLT processor. You can use it for transformation, for validation, but you cannot use it for debugging. But that's an interesting idea in the sense that if you are using a previous version of Saxon or a specific version of Saxon, you can have an XSLT processor or an adapter exactly for that version, and use it within oXygen as a plugin, right? So you can have Saxon 9.0.1.3 or whatever specific version you want as an engine in oXygen, and use it for validation and transformation. In this way, matching exactly your production environment, let's say that uses exactly the same version. So I think we, by this conversion action, you mean kind of refactoring to change between if and choose in XSLT. So converting an if to a choose, for instance, like a refactoring action. Better localization in expat expressions that comes from Saxon reporting.
Yeah, and we call it the localization that now the report layer.
So schematron support also is one of the parts that we worked a lot in oXygen. Really, we put a lot of work into that. And I mentioned also to Tony earlier that we are promoting schematron for the last 3-4 years at many conferences that we go to. many sessions where we show the schematron support. And now schematron and SQF are available in the web author, and both Christy and Octavian presented during the
They're cheering for us. Do you support the new version of schematron config? Some updates to the syntax, isn't
It came at the end of last year, and it's not available in 18.1, but it's scheduled for online.
So Octavian is the main person who worked on the schematron support from our side. And I mean, it really made sense to bring to the web editor, which is addressing a non-technical audience, to be able to allow you to communicate to this audience, because schematron enables this communication to those users, and to help them, whenever they find a problem and they are lost, to just press a button to fix it. Do you know about master files in oXygen? Yes? Who doesn't know? It's a trick question. Who doesn't know about master files? Nobody?
No or understand.
You find it confusing?
Yeah.
So the problem with
I don't have much use for it.
the problem with master files was you work with an XSLT, a more complex XSLT transformation, right? And you have variables defined in one file, templates in another, and then you are in some module and you want to use those variables or those templates. If this module does not include those that define the variables or the templates or the functions, oXygen does not have a way to know what to offer you. Are you paying attention to me? Or I'm just talking? Sorry, you asked a question. Yeah, sorry, no, I'm just kidding. So the problem was, if you are in such a module that does not include the others, you want oXygen to show you, it's this variable, this template available. And the solution was that you can go to this module and say, don't validate this module, validate this file instead, the one that includes everything. But you need to do that for every module, right? So we had this validation scenario added first, when you can say, you can define a validation scenario like you define a transformation scenario, right? And you say, don't validate this file, start from here, because this includes my file, right? So you can specify the main style sheet. And yours, the one that you work on, will be automatically validated.
Is that literally what it does? Is instead of looking at the file you're in, it validates the file above?
Exactly. So, but it does that without you specifying each validation scenario. You just say, oh, these two are my master files, or this one is the master style sheet. And then when you open a file, it checks whether this is reachable from that master. And if it's reachable, rather than validating this file, we'll start from that file. And also the editing context will be computed from that file rather than from the module. That's all.
Can you use something similar to help implement the XSpec panel stuff we were talking about earlier? Sorry, just
Yeah. So that was the idea with the master files, and we are working now to add this concept also for DITA files. Because if you open a topic, let's say, if in case you are working with multiple DITA maps, in DITA you need to have a context for editing, which are the keys, and so on. Subject, key map, with values for different attributes and so on. So you need to know about the context for editing. So we are trying to add this concept also for DITA files. We support this master files idea also based on X-include. So for dogbook it works. If you have a dogbook file and you work on something, or based on entity references, for instance, right? So if you have a module, but you define something that includes that module, you can define that dogbook file, for instance, as a master file, and when you work on a module, it will start from that rather than on that specific module.
In DITA, if you work on a topic and there's key refs, etc., you have to have the DITA map over. But if you have master files, some kind of master files defined, then you wouldn't have to have the map over, or what?
You can specify right now the root map, even if it's not opened. We have a property in the DITA Maps Manager that says this is the root map. That's the map which provides the context for editing, no matter which map you have open. But one entry for that is the current map. The default is the current map from which is open, the current map in the DITA Maps Manager. That's probably you.
So it means if I have my master, so the root map is map A, and now I have map B open, that B overrides A for my current topics.
Let me see if I have a DITA map here. So the default for the context is the current map, but you can specify a specific map.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter what you have open here. That will be the context for the topics that you open. But now, if you open a topic which is not reachable from that map, that is still used as the context for that topic. Although that topic may be reachable from another map. So if you define, these three are my main deliverables, my main maps, then we should be able to identify dynamically when you open a topic from which map that topic is referred from, and use that as a context. It's a complex, it's not a very easy problem, because that topic can be used from two different maps. From, you specify three, you open a topic and it's used from all of them, or from two of them, or from, it gets more more complex. But we are working on this, to basically provide more flexibility.
How do you resolve that then, if you have something which is subject to more than one master file? Do you show all the errors, or do you show only the errors that are all in common?
We show all the errors. Because if you have, like an XSLT module, which is used from two different transformations that you define that these are entry points, master files, then it should be valid in both contexts. And this support for master files is also used for refactoring actions. When you rename an XSLT module, we find, all the places that refer to that module and rename also those entries, the references, and so on. So that's another use case for the master files. They provide the content for refactoring actions. We created on the DITA side, we created rather than going, let's say, on create content reference or something like that, and using an action to create a content reference and then browsing for different parts, we were thinking to have a reusable components view where you can search maybe for different parts, see what's reusable, and from there you can create references. So we wanted to focus on having what's reusable available in one place rather than following a dialog to get that. So then from there you can filter what's available, and we were thinking also, I think, to I mean, if you define like a specific set of topics which are your usable components, you should very easily see what's available rather than you don't want someone to reuse randomly from everywhere. Oh, we implemented also conversions from different topic types. So converting from a task to a topic, things like that, because the markup is not identical for these topic types, and this may interest you. Also, so another thing was, if you want to create not one topic, but like 5, 10 different topics. We have an action that says fast create topics, where you can kind of just define the titles for what you want to create, and then it will create all of them based on the title, basically, and then you can choose. You have some options. Titles are used to generate the file name, and you have some rules that you can specify how those file names will be generated and so on. And with the indenting, you can decide, the structure of the topic blocks.
There's one checkbox missing there, that it actually writes the content of those 5 topics as well.
Including an abstract generator from the automatically created content.
Well, that's what I saw like 30 years ago. They were talking about this abstract generator that takes any number of words and then makes an abstract out of it. And I said, that's impressive, but I'd like to have the other way around.
Yeah, so the file for creating new topics also allows you to specify the title and so on. So it's basically more or less similar with the other part that allows you to create multiple topics, but also when you create one topic, you can just
If you specify the title, then the title will be used also as an ID or as file name, so it's easier to create.
And now you can save the file when you create it. You can until now, I think we used to create untitled files
In memory?
Yeah, but now when creating a new file, you can choose to save the file from the start with a given name. So that's one addition.
So these are some of the things that we hope to have all of them available in April. So if you have anything to share with us. Yes, David.
Well, you're basically releasing the collaboration platform, right? What's the licensing model for that? So, if I'm on a standalone editor, will I be able to use direct GitHub integration? Probably not.
The collaboration platform is not integrated with GitHub. The collaboration platform allows you to get files that you have in the local oXygen installation and basically creates a package that's uploaded on the server, and it gives you back a URL that allows users to access those files, which basically are sandboxed on that server. And the way you get them back is either you download them or use the integration, the get changes action that performs the merging with the same files that you had used when you create the package. So the package basically contains the base and the changes. So when you download or when we get the changes, we get the original base content and the change content. And then locally you may have, you may have changed the files, right? So the GitHub integration is part of the web author. It's a plugin for the web author. The source code for that, along with the source code for the Dropbox integration, for for all other plugins, I think, is available on GitHub under the oXygen XML account. And that's for the web author, not for the collaboration platform. We are thinking, because the collaboration platform provides an API, the plugin from oXygen that allows you to create a review task is one client. But you can use the same API to automatically generate a review task. Let's say, as Christy mentioned at some point, whenever you commit on a specific branch on GitHub, you can have a code, that will trigger, will be triggered by that commit, and it will create a review task and send emails maybe to somebody to access that content. But then you need to think, how do you want to integrate that back into Git or the original repository? So you can have another client, basically, but that will be it will be another idea. Right now, we as I said, we wanted to have a minimal product that solves this problem. You have a document, it's in front of you. You want someone to just do something to that. What steps you need to take to get to that? And I think we like 4 steps, and you're ready with this. And in terms of licensing for we plan to have at least 6 months when it will be generally available. We plan to have oXygen users be able to use. Right now, I don't know if there will be a limitation on features or a limitation on how much you can use. Like you can create a review task, but not 10, or or a review task per week, or something like that. I don't know. First, we will just make it available for oXygen users and see where that goes. I mean, if there will be enough people that get at it for an enterprise environment to still allow us to provide it for free for the oXygen users, that's also an option. I don't know. But at least for the six months, probably we want to have that available, and 6 months, 1 year, I don't know, to see how it works.
Is it dependent on having license for the web author?
No. What do you mean?
Access to the collaborative platform.
So we'll host a service for this, and we will have a plugin in oXygen. That plugin that has the side view. Yeah, so from your point of view, you have the standalone version, you install the plugin, and then you can create the review tasks.
So just from a selfish point of view, it would be nice to be able to use the collaboration platform for free on a, Oasis technical committee with 3 editors. not creating many tasks.
One idea was maybe to have this into the enterprise edition of oXygen. So an enterprise license to give you access to this. That was one idea. So.
I understand that you can't work for free. Well, if enough enterprise subscribers, pay the bill, then it would be also nice to make it available in some small amount for the ordinary.
Yeah, that's one of the that's also our idea, to allow people, to immediately be able to share a document. By the way, where is Mohammed? Share XML is a good is a good domain. Probably for that.
One more thing for the technical writers among us. George reminded the DITA master file support. The cool thing is that now with this support you can add the main DITA map as the master file, and then you can restructure your project however you want, because all the references to different topics, to different resources such as audio, video files, images, and all stuff like that, XREFs, scanrefs, all of them will be updated, so you can restructure your whole project however you want in a better way, hopefully. That's something I wanted to mention. Yes?
Just for my understanding, I promise it's not a new question. So if you've got a lot of different maps for different publication types, for example, or just different mixtures of content, would you still have to have one map as your master file that just has everything in it?
No, you can send multiple maps.
Yes.
That's the idea with the master file support. You can have multiple.
Okay.
Yeah, rather than, because even now you can define, as you mentioned, one big map that includes all the other maps and have that as the root map. In a way, but it will not really work all the time.
The master file support works in the project view. I think the root map only worked when dealing with the DITA maps manager, right? So now you can drag and drop, rename folders in the project view, and you can update all the references.
So when you're creating the topics and the inner thing, you're creating the DITA map behind it?
Yeah, that will generate topic refs into the DITA map at that place, and it will generate the files on disk as well.
So we have to talk about creating key maps in subfolders, and then I don't have to maintain knowledge.
Probably. Yes?
Well, it would be nice if you can provide access to the master files through the API. Or maybe you do already, but 2 years ago, I didn't.
Octavian, do you know?
No, we don't have this.
We have some time.
Yes. I don't know.
Any other questions? Yes?
Not related to DITA, but the nice feature of SOP 0 is a text value template. So curly braces within the text content and then put XPath expression in it. It's not supported by your content completion yet. You do support it within attributes, but not within text, and it's missing.
Oh, I see. Yeah, we know. We have raise this priority.
Don't be shy. Share. We will listen. So, for example, I remember that last year in Prague, some of you talked about the difficulty of sharing a plugin and a framework together as a whole. So know that in version 19 you'll be able to do that. So a plugin will be able to define a few frameworks that will come with it. So oXygen will load them automatically. That's for you to access.
So like a prerequisite string or something. So then they're stored as a separate framework and just get downloaded automatically.
It will come together. So inside the framework package, inside the plugin package, there will also be a framework. But up until now, I mean, sometimes you want to customize oXygen, but you need a framework and you need a plugin. So there are different APIs offering you different hooks. So the need was to put them together as a whole and ship it to the users.
What would that be? I don't know the difference between a plugin and a framework. I just know that the menu is manage plugins also for frameworks. FOCheck, for instance, is a framework.
Yes.
And we plan on building something for internal quality control and host it on our company GitHub, Bitbucket, whatever, so that to be able to update all the users of the company. So, like FOCheck, for instance, what is kind of the pair? What can package what? In case of is framework can be part of a plugin, or can it be vice versa as well? A plugin as part of a framework.
So
does that tell might be well of that where to look?
So the framework, it's a configuration together with resources that provide extensive support for a type of document.
Okay.
There's also Java API available for the framework. It might be enough for you. The plugin, on the other hand, allows you to control the entire oXygen environment.
Okay.
So, for example, to contribute a view with a specific behavior, or
a custom button or whatever, I have to go for a plugin.
A custom button that is not linked to a specific document type.
the framework can also add some buttons. So,
But specific for that document type that is matched by the framework.
exactly. So you'll only see those buttons if you open a document that belongs to that framework, as opposed to a plugin which can put general buttons in the toolbar.
I understand. So within the plugin, you can basically then do anything like supplying a new framework.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you for joining us.